Hello and welcome to the Live Life Golden Show. This is episode 36, parenting, marriage, relationships, mastering your family dynamic. This is something that I am incredibly passionate about. I've done tons of research on and I've experimented on my own family. So there you go. We have 4 daughters, ages 29, almost 28. 20 and 18, all from the same marriage. People always ask us that because we had a huge gap in between them. We had the first 2 when we were super young. So I was 19 when I had my first, and then 21, almost 21 when I had my second. And then we waited 9 years and had our 2 little ones. And we also have a 4-year-old grand baby child, we call her. And it's been an experience, and it's one that I'm super excited to share because I've done it right and I've done it wrong, and I've processed and I've progressed and I've healed and I've created incredible relationships with each one of my daughters. So is it perfect? Hell no. Are we working on it still? Hell yes. But the truth is, I've got information to share. So if you have a family, if you've got some kids that are at different ages, I'm going to touch on a lot on adolescents and teens because I think that probably is the most challenging time of life. As much as like toddlers and babies are physically challenging, older kids are super duper challenging. And I have a lot of experience with all of them. So I'll touch on temper tantrums and stuff because that's important as well. So everything is energy. We've got this parenting job, right? Like we're given this baby, we get pregnant. I remember when they sent me home from the hospital with my first baby and I was like, holy crap, like I'm in charge of this and she's crying and I don't know why. And she cried a lot. She would cry for 2 to 3 hours every night. And I would just hold her and rock her, no clue what to do. She was probably overtired, colicky, working from my anxiety. So if you have anxiety, and I'm sure you can notice this, like with each child, it got a little bit easier because you kind of knew what you were doing and you weren't as anxious. So they weren't feeding off of that anxiety. So there you go. So everything is energy, people. Everything is energy. So how you feel about your children, how you talk about your children, how you regard your children is what they're going to give you. It's a frequency. When you tune into that radio station, they're going to give you more of what you are feeling about them and what you are thinking about them. So, in order for us to take our power back with our kids, there is a lot of healing work that we have to do within ourselves. I really do believe our kids are brought here to help us to heal, to trigger some things within us that need healing, that are asking for healing. So, in knowing that, I can tell you that my own life experience, I've created so much abundance of healing because I have gone within and worked on my stuff, because I have taken the time to no longer take my kids' stuff personally. And instead, I have decided, where's my stuff in this? And I've worked on it so that I'm able to come to them as a mom who is whole and healed and knows who she is. And because of that, I don't overcompensate anymore. I don't give too much. I don't live in resentment because I've worked on this stuff so much. So I'm really my intention today is to really help you to take your power back with your kids and to open the lines of communication. I think the biggest problem, the biggest issue, challenge, whatever that I see right now with parents is there's no communication. There's absolutely no communication. They're barking orders and they become these dictators. The kids feel more and more powerless, the punishing thing like that our parents used to do. And if you're doing this, I'm going to cause you to pause here because it doesn't work. The punishing, the taking things away, the trying to control every little thing they do is absolutely the most disempowering thing we can do as adults, as parents. It really is. The wanting to control, the wanting to just know where they are all the time, the helicopter parenting, it is a really lackful way to parent. And the reason for that is you're not helping your child to get to their own inner guidance. So they can't connect with right and wrong because they're basically making decisions based on my parents want me to do this. My friends want me to do this. I don't really like my parents right now. I love my friends and I want to be popular. So they're going to be listening to their friends. So our job as parents, I truly believe, is about helping our kids to find their own inner guidance. It's helping our kids to connect with their emotional field. It's helping them to not be, punishing them for their emotional field. Like, how many times did you get punished when you were growing up for being upset or for being angry or for having a hissy fit, right? Temper tantrums are energy leaving the body. They're a buildup of frustration that just explodes. If you've ever had these, like I used to have these crazy rage things with my kids when they were younger, where I didn't feel like I had any control and I was just losing my shit. It's because I had all this pent up frustration and energy that I wasn't dealing with. And now I do. Now I know how to deal with the things that are coming up and speak my truth and communicate what I need so that there is not this huge buildup that ends up becoming this explosion. So let me explain to you what's happening in your child's brain as an adolescent and even as a 2-year-old. So there's this book out. It's called Yes, Your Teenager is Crazy. It was really enlightening. I highly suggest it. I only remember a few things from it, so I don't know if I connect with all the information in it. But what it did was it empowered me with the information of what was actually going on in my child's brain as they were going through adolescence. So there's a part of your brain when you're like 2 years old, and then it kind of goes back when you're an adolescent where the emotional centers are not fully developed yet. So you don't know how to manage your emotional field. There's a lot of adults that don't even know how to do this, okay? Because we've never been taught. Like, there was no class on emotions in high school, right? Like there was no even like we were punished for our emotions, right? Like it's just crazy because there was no like your emotions are valid, your emotions are important. Like let's deal with the emotions. Let's talk. When we get to that emotional field and we start working within the scope of it, that's when we start to get answers about why they're doing shit, answers about why they're pushing us away. There's so many answers in the emotional field. And if they have no connection, if they're disconnected from their emotions or they're being taught that their emotions are wrong, they're going to do things, risky behaviors to try to distract themselves from emotions. And we see a lot of adults doing this. It's not healthy. So the biggest and the first thing is to look at yourself, like look at how you're conducting with your child. And then the next thing is to start talking to them, create a meditation practice first, maybe for a week. You got to get your power back. You got to get yourself at choice. So start meditating for a little while first. Quieting the mind practice. I have a teaching on my website, www.livelifegolden.com. There's a teaching on there that will help you, teach you how to meditate. And there's a little meditation in there as well to help you to start a practice. Meditation is absolutely the biggest game changer I've ever seen in my parenting game. When I started meditating, I became a totally different mom. Completely, because you're no longer being run by subconscious shit. You're no longer being triggered and running from this reactive mode because you've got space between your mind and your ability to speak. Like you've got space to decide, how do I want to say this? And I think about this a lot, especially now, because the way I say things to my girls, the way I present things, the way I feel about them is what's going to create. So if I'm going to go out there and I'm going to accuse them and I'm going to not trust them and I'm going to create all this angst with them, nothing is going to be created except for that. More bullshit, like just damage in our relationship is what comes from that. So instead, I kind of like pull back, I process a lot before I say things. And then I kind of ask myself, what is the best way to present this, to communicate? Because I can't keep things in, I won't. It's not that I can't, because I have. I won't keep things inside. I need to share how I feel because the way that I feel and the way that the things that I need are important. That's my worthiness, is sharing with you what I need so that we don't create a bunch of bullshit and drama that's unnecessary. So when it comes to your teen or your adolescent, it's sitting down, it's having those quiet moments. And I know they're probably pushing you away right now. And I get that. That's part of the process of their independence, them becoming independent. So right now, if you've got angst in your relationship, most likely it's because you've acted like the dictator, because you've the power and control. It's all about power and control. What can I take away? What can I do that's going to hurt? What can I do to really make this person behave? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's like, if it worked, prison would work, right? We wouldn't have so many repeat offenders. It doesn't work because we're not getting to the why. We're not getting to the reasons why this is happening. And we live in a different world. This old school parenting bullshit's not working anymore. We can't parent like that. They know too much. They're exposed to too much. And like the social media piece of it is huge because the influence on our children is 24/7. It's 24/7. Even if you take their phone away, they're being exposed to a lot. So we've got to get better. We've got to get smarter. We've got to learn how to master this game of communication. And we've got to create connections with them where they feel safe to talk to us. If they feel the whole reason, okay, I saw this guy, this therapist, when I believe my second was in middle school. And we had a lot of challenges there. And she was lying a lot. She was, woo, man, was she a good liar. She was such a good liar. She would convince me that I was crazy. Like I would go, wait a minute, is she not lying? Wait, what? So because of that, I saw this guy and he had an incredible system that I did for a little while. It was charting. And basically what you did is you wrote down all of their chores and then they were worth points. And when they did them, you would circle the points. And then at the end of the week, you'd tally their points and you didn't circle it if they didn't do it. And then you would tally their points and then they would get rewards according to those points. And I did it for a while, but it's only as good as you work the system, right? And eventually you get tired and you got 4 kids and you can't handle the system. It did work though, I will tell you. And I don't remember, unfortunately, the gentleman's name or his book, but it was very useful. So what I realized through that process though, was that, my conduction, how I was feeling about them, and this was a big piece of that program, was not bitching at them. It wasn't telling them to do stuff. It wasn't bitching at them when they didn't do it. It just let the numbers speak for you. So that was a huge part of pulling away from the behaviors that you didn't like and only promoting the ones that you did. Only giving the rewards for them doing good and not punishing them for doing bad. But there was a punishment because they didn't get a reward. So it was pretty cool. It was a cool system. But for adolescents and looking at what they're dealing with, put yourself in their shoes. I used to lay in my daughter's bed and contemplate what her life was like. You got to put yourself in their shoes because you need a little compassion here. You got to think about, because all we tend to think about as parents is, how can I get them to do stuff? How can I get them to behave? How can I get them to get good grades? How can I get them to just get their schoolwork done and do what they're supposed to do and stay safe? We just want them to stay safe. Most of what we do is because we have a fear they're not going to be safe. And we don't trust that they're going to be safe. And we think we've got this illusion that we can protect them from every single little thing that's going to harm them. And it's not true. It's not true. I'll share a little story. And I wasn't sure that I was going to share this, but it's coming up. So I'm just going to share it. And this was kind of a big aha moment for me in my parenting game. When I was growing up, I had a sibling that was extremely challenging for my parents, challenging for me, challenging for pretty much everyone that came across this person. So they, live their whole life pretty risky, drinking and driving, doing lots of drugs, getting in fights, all sorts of things. And, my parents wanted to protect. I'm sure there was that feeling of wanting to protect and being scared for safety and all of that stuff. And eventually what ended up happening is at the age of 21, he fell and broke his neck. And the thing is like all the worrying, all the anxiety, and all the fear could not have prevented something that was destiny. Now, I'm not saying that your child's going to break their neck. What I'm saying is we cannot do enough to hold our kids, protect our kids, and keep them safe from the life that is unfolding for them. We all have a story. They have a soul. They have a being. They have things that they are walking through that they wanted this experience coming here. So you can't protect them enough. And I've seen this across the board with parents who protect their kids, keep them in a bubble. They're super strict. You all know these parents, super strict. They won't let their kids do anything. And then when the kids get to college, they lose their minds and they party like rock stars because they never had the freedom. Or they're so socially anxious that college doesn't even work for them because they weren't given the freedom to be who they really are. So there's a balance. There's definitely a balance, and there's boundaries, and there's things that you can do that will empower your kids instead of disempowering your kids. Like I was thinking about the curfew thing recently, and you don't have to agree with me on any of this stuff. I have experiences and I have evidence of what works for my family, but it may not work for you. These may be deal breakers that you're like, hell no, there's no way that I'm going to be like that. I had a curfew when I was 15, and the very first thing that I ever challenged this curfew on was a concert that I went to. It was Aerosmith. My husband and I were just talking about this the other day. And they let me go with him, and he was kind of newly licensed. I think he had just gotten his license like maybe a year before. And so they let me go with him, and I forget, the concert was like kind of far away, maybe 45 minutes away, and I had a curfew. And my curfew was like 11 o'clock. And I will never forget this. And I think about this as a parent a lot. My boyfriend at the time, husband now, drove like 80 miles an hour on backcountry windy roads to get me home on time so that we could finish the concert. The concert wasn't even over until 11. So we could finish the concert and I could get home on time. I can't remember if I got home on time. I'm pretty sure that I did. Maybe the concert ended at 10. Anyways, the point is, my kids rarely have had a curfew. My older two, yes, like we tried the curfew thing. Once they get to 18, 19, 20, forget the curfew. Like it doesn't even exist. You can say what you want, but my secret with all of the staying out late at night and kids coming home, and this is not for the 12-year-olds, of course, is I wrap them in angels. I send angels, I wrap angels around them, and I sleep very peacefully, and I don't wait up for anybody. The waiting up thing never made sense to me because I get up very early and waiting up does not work. I'm not going to torture myself that way. I'm not going to torture them that way. And there's a trust factor here when it comes to this stuff. The trust factor is I trust in their well-being. I trust in their own inner guidance, and I trust that I don't have to wake up to see if they're like doing something bad. I trust. And for a long time with my older two, I did not trust. I did not trust them at all. And I'll tell you why. First of all, I was a super young mom, so I feel like I didn't know better. My parents didn't trust me, not worth a lick. And I had, because I had that older sibling who was troublesome, that kind of shadowed me. I was like a good kid and I wasn't trusted. And I'll tell you what, I did things that I shouldn't, definitely created more distrust. So for my older kids, I didn't trust them because I thought that they were doing what I did. And I was a little troublesome. I had a lot of powerlessness feeling in my life. So I did things that were very risky to help me feel like I was powerful, and that's why this communication stuff is so important in our parenting game, because if we disempower our kids and we make them feel powerless and like they have no control, they're going to figure out a way to do it. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to show up in drug use or it's going to show up in an eating disorder. I've been through the gamut. I have. And I will tell you, there's a way to communicate with your kids that will make them feel powerful, that will make them feel like they have a voice with you so that they don't have to go out and rely on their friends to tell them what's right, what they should be doing, that they'll be able to talk to you and tell you what's going on and ask you for advice so that they don't end up in these situations. The whole reason why kids lie, the whole reason why anybody lies is because they don't want to get in trouble. That's it. And we go ballistic on lying. I used to go, I still go a little ballistic on lying. I don't like being lied to. That sucks. Like for me, that's trashing our relationship. That's what I say to my daughter. You're trashing my relationship with you when you lie to me, because then I can't trust you. And if we don't have trust, what do we have? Right? So in order for us to really step into like a communication and a trustful relationship with them, we first have to trust. And we've got to respect. If we don't respect them, how are we expecting them to respect us if we don't respect them? If we don't respect their feelings and their wishes, why should they respect our feelings and our wishes? It's a law of attraction thing. What you give out is what you get back. So an energy exchange that you're having with your kids, ask yourself, am I just a dictator? Am I spouting off commands? Am I demanding? Am I listening? Am I just yelling? What am I doing? Am I creating more angst in my family? Am I mastering this family dynamic, or am I throwing it in the shitter? Is it in the garbage disposal? Where are we going with this? Like, you really got to get clear. First of all, what do you want for your family? Do you want peace? Do you want love? I made that decision. This was back when I started meditating 20 years ago, long time ago. I made a decision. I want to feel peace and love in my house. How do I do that? Well, I got to change. I can't be bitching at people all the time. I can't be, acting like this all the time, because when I act like this, it triggers my husband. So then he starts yelling at people, and then my kids are emotional, and it's not peaceful. It's just yucky. So I had to take my power back within myself in order to create this family dynamic of peace. It always comes from the mom. If you're a dad who's a stay-at-home dad, it definitely can come from the dad. But for the most part, because the women are the nurturers and they're the emotional ones, it usually comes from the women. So you got to step into this from a place of, I got to work on my shit. Where is my stuff in this? Where is my stuff in this? If my daughter, so this is a piece of, the adolescence piece. So you got the brain, and the brain isn't really working to its fullest capacity, right? It's triggery, it's bitchy. They got all these hormones coming in, just like screwing with everything. They got pimples that makes them hate themselves. They've got social media that they've got to stand. We never had this. This is a whole new world. They've got this social media presence here that's like basically, putting a mirror on them every day and saying, oh, can you live up to this? Are you as cute as this? Are you as funny as this? Are you, whoa. The other piece of that had come up is like promiscuity, like just them being inappropriate on camera and things. My daughter said to me, this was quite a few years ago when she was in high school, and like these kids send nudes and stuff like that. Oh my God, mind boggling. Like I'm not a prude necessarily. I can actually be pretty inappropriate. But I grew up on the East Coast. We're way more conservative, right? Now that we're in California, it's a little different, but social media has changed everything, right? Where people are there's a little voyeurism going on. There's a little exposure going on, right? So these kids don't have the hangups as much as we do with the body and the allowing yourself to be shown. They don't have the hangups that we do. So you've got to think about that too. They don't think about, and they're not thinking about all the bullshit that's on the news. They're not thinking about the pedophiles. They're not thinking about being unsafe. They don't want to think about any of that. So when you bring that to the table, you actually push them further away, because they think, my daughter used to say this to me all the time, Mom, don't put your stuff on me. Don't put your stuff on me. And I was like, Jesus. So this is the thing about warning them about our own fears and our own anxieties, about the things that we've experienced in life. They don't want to hear it, A. And B, by warning them and being anxious and scared for them, we're actually putting that stuff in their experience. Or actually could create some of that stuff for them. But it's like, well, I want them to be aware. I want them to know that they need to be careful out there, that it's a dangerous world. You want them to walk around scared? Like what we fear is what we bring to life. So no, we don't want them to do that. We want to help them engage their inner guidance, to be aware of the outside world, to pay attention, to really pay attention. That's what we want them to do. And God forbid if anything should happen, I hope that you can get to this place where you just trust in destiny. You trust that we all have this journey, that we all have guidance, and that we all have things we're going to live through, and we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And hopefully you can feel me on that, because that's a big one. Believing in their destiny and trusting that they're going to be okay and that they have their own guidance, they have their own non-physical support, is huge. That's huge, because if you don't believe in that and you think that they're just out there in this big bad world, that can be a scary thought, and that can keep you up at night. Okay, so I have not looked once at my notes, which is not surprising to me at all, because I've got so much to say about this. All right. So, what are you focused on with them? The biggest thing I've found in my parenting game is our child will come to us and we'll do a scan. We'll do a scan, and we'll look at them, and we'll look at what we think is wrong. And then we'll tell them. We'll tell them, like, your shirt is wrinkled, or are those the pants you wore yesterday? Or are you going to wear that short skirt? Or you got a lot of makeup on, right? Like, we just look at what's wrong. I have a daughter right now who's going through several different phases constantly. And she does a lot of things like, she does a lot of things. I'm not going to share anything personal because I don't want to do that to her, but she has an interesting style, and every couple of weeks it changes. So I got to go with this. I think she is a big part of me detaching from my children and letting them become these independent beings, because that's the goal. The goal is for them to become independent, and their goal, I hate to say this, but their goal is to almost make us not like them, so we'll let go. I've seen it with every single child. They have created angst. They've created energy. They've created just this thing between us where I just don't really care for them. I don't really like them. And so it's easier to let them go. But I'm very aware of it now. So it's definitely changed in my last two, where it's not as intense, and I've been able to change it and to tune into different frequencies with them. So what frequency are you tuning in with them? Are you only looking at what's wrong with them? Are you doing a scan? Are you trying to correct them all the time? Well, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that. What are you focused on? You're focused on what they're doing wrong. And if you're focused on what they're doing wrong and what they're not doing right, just like that charting system that I did, you're going to activate more of the doing wrong. They're going to give you more reasons to feel that way, and it's going to create more anxiety in your family. So I did a session with a lady a long time ago, and she had a 10-year-old little girl who was strong-willed. We got these strong-willed little beings that come in, and they got their own agenda. My grandchild is definitely like this. Own agenda. Like, I've got a thing I need to do, and you need to not get in my way because I'm going to do it, whether you say I can or not. So when you have children like that have a very strong will, when you push against them, which we did with one of our girls, they push back, and it creates a lot of angst in the family. It creates it's almost like a war, that war for power and control. They want to feel like they're in control. If your kids feel powerless, I will say this again, it's going to come out in risky behaviors because they want to feel like they're in power somehow. So this is why it's important not to get into these power struggles, and to make sure that you check yourself before you wreck yourself, because this has to do with you. So I had asked this woman, she had a 10-year-old little girl, and they were having a lot of issues with her, and they just wanted her to behave. Like, they just wanted her to be good in school and do her homework and clean her room. We're not asking a lot here, people. But for these kids, it's asking way too much. So I said to her, well, have you asked her how she feels? And she was like, had not even considered that. And this is what I see with most parents. And this was definitely one of my things back in the day, where feelings, they have feelings. I need them to care about my feelings. I don't need them to pay attention to their feelings, right? I just need them to behave and do what I want, because they're doing this shit to piss me off. And they are not. I can promise you, your kids are not thinking about you as much as you want them to be, or as much as you think they are. They're not thinking about you. They're not thinking about you at all. I'm sorry, they're very narcissistic. When it comes to that emotional center and what's going on in their brain, they only care about themselves and they only care pretty much about right here and maybe Friday night. That's it. They're not future oriented. They're really just about right now and the next fun thing that's happening. So don't expect them to consider you because they are not. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to break that to you. But that because of that, coming into this understanding of not taking things personally, like their bitchiness is not about you. The fact that they're in a bad mood or they don't like what's going on in their life experience could be because of things that you're doing to them or with them. But for the most part, it's hormones, it's their friends, it's the social pressures, it's the school pressures, it's the pimple on their forehead. It's a lot of that stuff. It's a lot of surface stuff. So, getting to their feelings and helping them to connect with their feelings and to understand that they've got an emotional field, to understand that you value their emotions and you care about the way they feel, and that you're interested in some sort of compromise, you're interested in giving a little. Because if you don't give and you just push and you don't give anything, you don't kind of meet them somewhere halfway, that's when they feel powerless. And then they're going to be pushing against you all the time. So, some of the greatest conversations I've ever had with my kids, there was one that I had with my youngest when she was like, I don't know, 9 maybe. It's so funny. You should see her room now. And I remember having this conversation with her and we made a compromise because her room was a mess a lot. And I did that at that point in my life. That was important to me. I liked my house being totally clean. I liked walking into her room. I liked the flow of energy when everything's in its place. And I said, listen, babe, your room's not working for me. And so I think what's going to happen is I'm just not going to come in here and you're going to have to put yourself to bed. She loved when I tucked her in and told her, stories and prayers and things like that. And then she loved when I came in the morning and I would help her pick out her clothes. So me not coming into her room was a big deal. So she cleaned her room with no issue because I told her that was kind of the stipulation, and that lasted for a long time. And I remember her saying how much better she felt when her room was organized, and how good it felt to walk into a room that was like organized and she could find her clothes. And so she had her own awareness about that. But I needed to connect with her on what was important to me and not do it from a place of you have to clean your room, because I was tired of doing that. It wasn't working. So communicate in a way like, okay, listen, buddy. And I remember doing this too. Like she was late for school a lot, late for the bus, and the mornings were super anxious. And so I would say to her, like, what can we do about this? Because I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like waking up like this. I don't like all the pressure. What can I do to help you in the morning so that you're not creating this situation? And that was another like shift in energy. And we created such better mornings because of that. So what can you do? What conversations can you have that can allow them to open up and allow them to get reflective? Allow them to think about their situations instead of feeling like they're being pushed all the time to do things. Let them have some choices. Empower them to what works for them. Because if you can show them and help activate what works for them, what tunes them into high frequencies, they're going to come into adulthood much more successful than if you're just pushing them to clean their room or pushing them to do chores, right? And I know we want to raise kids that are responsible. We want to raise kids that, get things done. All of that stuff. Yes, yes, yes. But the truth is, the heavy responsibility that these kids are under right now with social media, with school, with all the things they're being called to, by putting a whole bunch of other things on their plate, you may just be creating a bunch of pressure in your family and a bunch of angst in your family. So you've got to look at that and you've got to decide what's important. It's like, and have those conversations like, hey, buddy, like we're a team. And if mom and dad are working full time, we're going to need some assistance from you to help us out with what the family dynamic and the house dynamics and what needs to get done. Coming from that place instead of like, you have to do this or you're going to be punished is totally different. It's opening the lines of communication, and it's giving a shit about what they think, and it's caring about how they feel. And it's deciding, listen, we're in a relationship. And as much as I want to believe that I know what's right for you, I don't, because I'm not you. I remember having this conversation with a mom a long time ago, and she was fretting because her daughter wasn't social and she really didn't want to go out a bunch. And she really liked being home and cooking and just had like one friend, and she was happy with that. And the mom was like, God, I used to go out and have so much fun and I had a million friends. And I'm like, but that was you. That's not her. That's not her guidance. That's not what turns her on. That's not what lights up her life. So we think we know what's best for them, but we're not living in their shoes. We haven't lived through their life experiences. We haven't connected with their friends. We don't know what they really like, what their preferences are, unless we ask. And when we ask, a huge thing happens, a huge shift happens, because they go, oh, hold on a second. I'm worthy. Hang on. I'm worthy. And you want to hear what I have to say, and you care. And you're not going to come back at me and try to change my mind. You're just going to be okay with the way I feel. And then we're going to talk about how we can both be happy, how we can both get what we want. I mean, holy crap. Is that not like the greatest thing in compromise? How can we both be happy? Holy cow. So compromise, yes. And there's going to be things that are going to make you uncomfortable. Your kids are going to want to do things that are out of your comfort zone. And, you've got to go within and work on your guidance on those things, and ask yourself what your deepest fears are, and ask yourself if it's really smart to be keeping your kids from life experiences that could expand and grow them, that could make them become more. I'm not saying put your kids in dangerous situations. What I'm saying is you can't protect them enough. If you've got fears and anxieties, you've got to work on those and stop putting them on your children, because you're going to freaking create them. And that sucks. So I have kind of a controversial story. I don't think I've ever shared this one. It's a little controversial, and you may not agree with me at all about this, but this was where I was at. So when my older girls were growing up, and one of them was 18, 19, she was drinking a lot, and I knew that. And I knew there wasn't a lot I can do about it. When they get to a certain age, you can speak your piece and you can throw them out of the house and you can do whatever you want. But if you really want to keep the peace and keep your relationship whole and in good communication, sometimes you have to accept shit, and you've got to just wrap them in angels and pray to God they're okay and that they don't make stupid decisions, because at these ages, sometimes they do, right? So, she had, I'll go back a little bit because there's another story that actually is very fitting to this too. She was like 16, and she was really, wow. She moved out for a couple of months. She moved in with friends, and we were handling everything all wrong, just all wrong, all wrong, all wrong. So, she wanted to quit school. She wanted to quit high school. Yeah. She had this boyfriend who had quit high school, and and she just like wouldn't get up for school, and her grades were terrible. And I said to her, I said, babe, like, I'm done. Like, I can't push you to do this anymore, but I want you to know something. Like, we want to set you up for the greatest life path. And we know that graduating high school is a really important part of you creating a good path for yourself. And if you just quit high school right now, where are you going to go? And what are you going to do? Because this school thing is important to get this done, and it's important to us to help you, to support you, to see you through this, but we can't force you to do it. And thank the Lord, she chose to go back to school and to do the right things. And she actually got high honors like the next semester, because it was no longer us against her, or going to school was our choice and not her choice. Like, I put it back on her, and I empowered her to make a really brilliant decision for herself, where it was no longer me pushing the agenda. It was like, this is the way I see it. I see high school as something that's important to finish, and this is why. And I would love for you to do that, but I can't make you do it. And it really fueled her to create from her own guidance, from her own decision making, instead of rebelling. So there you go. So then when she was 18, she was drinking a lot. And I was like, I went to go clean off her car, snowing, and I saw a huge bottle of vodka on the floor. And I said to her, I said, And I don't know if I created this scenario for her. I really don't, because this is the part about putting your fears on your kids. And thank God she's safe and everyone was safe. But I said, you're gonna get arrested or you're gonna get into an accident. Like, you can't be drinking and driving. Like, it's a terrible thing to be doing and it's super irresponsible. And of course she dodged it and said it was her friends. And that whole night, what ended up happening was, like, in the middle of the night, she ended up drunk dialing me, right? So I get the drunk dial and I answer it, and she doesn't hear me because she hit the phone by accident. And I laid on the couch and I was in so much angst and so much worry. And I had no idea what to do. Like, I was just beyond knowing what to do. We had family members that had died in drinking and driving accidents. So there was a lot of fear there. And being woken up in the middle of the night it's just, I've got trauma from it. So I laid there and I got this download that I had to let go, that I absolutely had to let go of all this fear and anxiety, because it was just going to create more. And I had to release her from this situation and allow her to choose for herself. So there wasn't enough that I could do to protect her. There wasn't anything that I could say. Everything that I was saying, she was pushing away. So what ended up happening is, a week or two later, we were actually in California and she got a DUI. And she lost her license for like 8 months. She never drank and drove again. And, it was a lesson that had to happen. But I think because I took myself out of it, I didn't even have to deal with any of it. None of it. Like, whoever she was with picked her up from, the police station and dealt with it. And then she had to go to court. I think I did go to court with her. But other than that, it was like it solved the problem. So we can't solve our kids' problems for them. They have to learn through life experience. That's another really good tip is, we have to let our kids make mistakes. We can't protect them from the world and never let them make mistakes, or rescue them when they do. If you're constantly in rescue mode, you are disempowering them and you are not allowing them to expand and grow from their own life's journey. So we can give them advice. We can tell them the way we feel. We can tell them what we would do. But in the long run, if we help them connect to their inner guidance, get them to take a deep breath and get them to go inside and ask those questions, ask their heart questions, get them a journal, get them journaling, get them writing things out. That will get energy out of their body too. And don't read it. That's not right. Don't read it. Most of this shit you don't want to know. You don't want to know what's going on. Ignorance is bliss, I'm telling you. So, think about all the stuff that you did and how you were okay. I know it's not great to think about that. But the truth is, it's like, we all have a destiny. We all have a journey, and you're worrying and having fears and looking at what's wrong in the situation is just keeping you vibrating with the problem. If you want to get in the solution, the problem and the solution have different energy fields. You got to get in solution mode. You got to start communicating with them. You've got to change the energy exchange. And the way to do that is through love, through compassion. One other thing I got was a download on, oh man, when my third was going through adolescence, it was challenging. And I would take out her picture when she was 3 years old. She was, oh my goodness. I mean, all my kids are beautiful. Don't get me wrong. Gorgeous. Blonde hair, blue-eyed baby, sweetest little thing, just so sweet. She did used to bite people. But she had a little underlying anger thing going on. There's no doubt. But sweetest little thing. And so I would take myself back to those moments and remember, this is who she really is. She's not this cranky ass teenager. She's really this beautiful soul, this little being that I was blessed with. She chose me to be her mom, So how can I up level in that? So then I would stop seeing her for her bitchiness, and I would stop seeing her for her frustration in life. And instead I would just offer my love and compassion. How often do you extend? And they may not receive it. My kids will take a hug any time of day, no matter how angry they are, they will take a hug. So if I look at them and I see that they're having a bad day, I'll just say, it's okay. You're going to be okay. And I'll give them a hug. Try not to give too much advice because, my kids can turn off. There definitely is, like, at this point, they all listen to me. They all want to hear what I have to say. But back then, they would turn off. Like if you're too much and you're trying to give too much advice and, you're pushing, sometimes the greatest thing you can do is just listen. Just be a good listener and say things like this: that really sucks for you. Oh my God, that goes so far, baby. Instead of trying to fix, instead of trying to say you shouldn't feel this way. God, I used to do that a lot because of the law of attraction. My daughter used to say to me, Mom, I really wish you never knew about the law of attraction. Like she was sick of hearing my shit. Like, oh, so tired of hearing this. I just want to be in my crap. Like when they're in those nasty ass moods, they want to be there. I mean, they don't, but they do, they're there and that's where they're at. And telling them to be happy is like it's too far from where they are. So instead, if you can relate, if you can get some sort of connection with them and say, I know you're going through a rough time and I know it sucks. If you've got a lot of sibling rivalry going on, that a lot of that is about you. Sorry. Yeah, I've had it. Woo. You're creating from it, you're treating one differently than another, they're trying to one up each other. They're trying to find their identity creation. They're, looking to understand how relationships work. And if you are too much in that, you're creating more of it. You got to be like, you know what, you guys, you got to figure this out. I can't do this with you anymore. I need you guys to work this out. Work it out. Stop being so in there, because when you're in there, you are literally activating more of it. So you got to back away from it. You got to say, look, have individual conversations with them and say, I know your sister bugs you. I get it. But this is the thing. She is who she is. We've got to figure out a way to accept her and love her for who she is, or we're creating all this like nasty emotional energy. Is that what we want? And find out what they want. Find out what they want from those relationships. Well, I just want her to go away. Can't tell you how many times I've heard that. I just want to be an only child. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like one day you're going to love your sister, So having that, like that energy connection between them with the communication is better than being like, you guys are being punished because you don't get along. It's like, who gets along with their sister? I don't know too many people. So like accepting it and just allowing them to ask questions of their relationship with each other and asking them like, guys, this isn't working. What do you think we could do that would make this easier? What do you think you could do that would stop pushing her buttons so much? Or, like just opening up the lines of communication where you're not in a triggered state. You're not in a reactive state. You're able to just be calm. The last time my girls got into a fight was not that long ago, believe it or not. And it was over my birthday. We went to Lake Arrowhead. We had this beautiful house, and they came and just tried to trash the whole weekend. And so they got into this big argument, and it was something they were both really triggered about. And, we sat them down and they're yelling at each other. And it was literally like there was bullets flying over our head. And my husband and I are like underneath it. I think it's the first time this ever happened. We were both just like, what are we supposed to do about this? And we weren't in the emotional angst. We weren't engaging from a place of being out of control or yelling at people or being mad at people for their emotional fields or saying, you ruined my birthday or any of that. We were in the solution mode of what should we do about this? And then we talked to both of them about their triggers, about what they needed to heal. And we came together as a family in a really beautiful way. And I think it's been different. It's been really different since that happened. In fact, there's been no arguments since that. And that was like quite a few months ago. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect because they both have, their issues. They both have hormones and they've both got that time of month. Like whenever stores start slamming, we know it's that time of month. And yes, hormones are real, people. They're absolutely real. But there is a frequency that we tune into with those things, and we can make them worse by what we're focused on. If we're just like dreading it and we're in an expectation that they're going to be horrible, that's what we're going to create. Instead, if we're like, baby, I know you don't feel good. I get it. I get it too. And it's terrible. Like, what can we do to make you feel better? Can we run a bath? Try not to use food. I was going to say, can we get a tub of ice cream? We used to do that when our kids would have breakups with their boyfriends. Get the tub of ice cream. But you know what? The tub of ice cream wasn't about like just, feeding an emotion. It was more about the lightheartedness of it. That's what it is. So, my last tip for parenting is definitely going to be the lightheartedness. We are too effing serious about life. We are too much in the density of this life and about holding on so tight and what's going wrong. And I just want to control everything. And why can't everything go my way? And because of that, we're creating from stress. We're creating from a stressed position, and we're creating more stress because we're in that field of energy. So in order to clean up our stress, what we need to do is be more lighthearted, intend for fun, be funny with your kids, be silly with your kids, let them be silly. You know how many times we've gotten annoyed with our kids because they're happy, because they're doing cartwheels across the living room? Good Lord. I would love to see my kid do a cartwheel across the living room right now. Yeah, someday you're going to miss that. I promise you. So if they're too happy, if they're too joyful, if they have, my granddaughter, we took her out to dinner last week, and my husband was telling her, "You have ants in your pants." And she's like looking in her pants. She's like, "No, I don't." She could not sit still. And I'm like, that's life force. That's energy. That's her being happy and excited that we're together. It's not anything to punish her for. Let her run around the table in the corner. She's not bothering anybody, right? Oh my God, I love being a grandparent. It's so freeing. It's the cleanest love on the planet. I'm telling you. Just hold on, because the grandparent thing is way better than the parenting thing. Let me tell you. As long as you have boundaries around it, it's fantastic. So here's something you can do that is really impactful tip that you can do with your kids. So I used to do this with my kids all the time. In fact, I have journals that I found that are so fun. You do positive aspects. So you write a list every single day. You do this until you've shifted the energy field. And anytime you start hitting some bumps, you do this. You write down everything you love about them, everything that is great about them. I did this recently when I was doing dishes and I didn't want to do dishes and they were their dishes, and I started to go down that resentful field. I stopped myself and I started thinking about all the things that they do for me, and all the wonderful things that they are, and what good kids they are, and how they are. They're just good people, you know? When you start activating from that and you start thinking about that, boom, you're in love, you're in appreciation, you're in a high frequency. And then because you're in that high frequency, that is what you're going to meet them at. And soon enough, you're going to see their funny sides, and you're going to see their lightheartedness, and things aren't going to be so dense in your family, and your family dynamic is going to be a little funner. We laugh so much in my house. First of all, my husband is a funny man. He is very funny. He's hysterical. So he makes me laugh a lot. I'm on the edge of laughter pretty much all the time because that's what I decide to be, because I like to be like that. I like to be lighthearted and I like to connect with fun. Because that, to me, joy is one of the greatest secrets in life. If you can connect with joy, you can create abundance, you can create health, you can create a youthful appearance, you can create life force, you can create passion if you're in those lighter frequencies, if you're in the higher frequencies. So lightheartedness and fun and joy is really great. So if you can be funny, if you can connect with that lightheartedness, you're going to see a really different thing from your family and your kids, because your field is everything. How you feel and what's coming to you is what you are bringing in. So how you feel is all of it. So if you're feeling mad, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling upset that you can't do anything about their messy room, is it really freaking matter? Oh my gosh, if you guys could see my girl's room right now. She's been cleaning it out for the last 2 weeks, and you still can't see the floor. And back in the day, that would drive me insane. That would cause me a lot of angst, and I'd go in there and I probably would have cleaned it out already because I'd be like done with it. But she's 18. She's got her own guidance. She's got her own thing going on. She's got her own process. I'm just happy she's getting rid of stuff, right? So I'm just taking what feels good to me, and I don't go in there very much. I got to be honest. Actually, I do. I go in there at least once a day. I lay in the bed and I try to just like not look around. It doesn't really matter. Ask yourself that. The things that are upsetting you so much, first of all, what are you projecting on them? So are you seeing something that is going to make you go crazy? Are you projecting a worst case scenario for them? right? I don't want them doing this because this, and this is going to happen. They're going to get in trouble, right? So that's worst case scenario. If you want to see it playing out good, then you have to focus on that. You have to decide on that. You got to wrap them in angels. You got to trust that they have their own guidance and then help them connect with that by asking questions that matter and caring about the answer instead of pushing your own agenda on them. They don't give a shit about your agenda. In fact, they almost have to push it away. They almost have to deny it because they've got their own stuff. And if they go along with your story, they feel powerless. So they've got to create from their own. And that's why you got to find the middle of the road and connect with them on it and say, okay, where are we going from here? What's important to both of us? Can we find a way to connect what's important for both of us and create this level of trust in our relationship? One thing I said to my daughter recently is, I want to trust you. Please give me a reason to trust you. Okay? Because if I can't trust you, our relationship is, don't throw our relationship in the garbage. I want to be able to trust you. And I want you to be able to trust me. So I want you to be able to tell me things so that we can have this open communication that creates a good and healthy relationship so that our family dynamic is what, we all want it to be, which is peace, love, and joy, which is lightheartedness, which is fun, which makes life feel better. It makes life feel lighter. If you've got a family and you've got a home, let's say you're out in the workforce and you're doing your thing and you're busy and you got a lot going on and you come home and it's like a safe haven and you've got this beautiful parenting game on and a beautiful marriage. I didn't go too much into marriage. I didn't go into marriage at all. I'm sorry. I really want to do that show with my husband. I've got him. He's going to come in and do another show with me. So I really want to do the marriage thing with him because I feel like we both have a lot of things to offer in that. So ask those important questions and come home to that safe haven, create that peace for yourself because it's all up to us. We get to decide. We get to create. So don't let this little being be the one who's, stirring the pot and making things real messy. Let go of whatever's happened in the past. Don't create from guilt. Please don't parent from guilt. Parenting from guilt is a very disempowered way to parent, and they will manipulate the shit out of you if you do that. So heal your guilt, heal your stories, and come into the understanding that everything that's happened up until now it's an important part of your expansion and growth and theirs. All right, so I'm just going to do a couple just a little plug for my jacket today. I don't know if you can see it. And if you're not on YouTube, you're going to have to go check out YouTube. But this beautiful jacket, it's like really soft. It's almost like fleecy. So I promised the person I got this from, it's Backyard Boutique, and she's in Kansas, and she's on Facebook. And if you can't find it, just email me and I'll send you her link. But she's got all sorts of really cute stuff. I love the design on it. It's super cool. And it's super warm. It's actually really hot in California, but I had the air conditioning on, so I had to put on a jacket. First world problems. All right, people, I love you. Please let me know. I have Quantum Speak for Parents. I will send that to you. I will even put a message in it, or you can get it on Amazon. But Quantum Speak for Parents is the energetic game of parenting. If you really want to take your power back, you've got to start meditating. That is number one. Changed my whole parenting game. I will never forget. Right after that experience, I was so under the gun when I started doing meditation. I met a friend at playgroup and she was so chill. And I was like, what are you doing? I was so just disheveled. And I mean, I had a 10 and a 9-year-old, 11. It was like pretty much like an 11, a 10-year-old. We had one in every school at one point, 11, 10, 2, and a baby. And I was ballistic. I was going out of my mind. Actually, the baby she was like 2, I think, or a year and a half. I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I started this meditation class. And I was like, sign me up. I got to go do this. I got to, because I'm losing my mind. My nerves were so shredded every day. So I went to this meditation group. It was like a 6-week thing. My husband did it with me. And I remember my baby, she was like a toddler at the time, had like a temper tantrum in the bathtub because she didn't want to get out. And I remember and I used to get really mad. Like I would get really mad. And I remember taking her out of the bathtub, wrapping her in a towel and holding her in my arms like she was a newborn and just telling her everything was going to be okay. And she just settled and she settled. And before that, I would have yelled at her. I would have gotten mad at her. She would have cried. It would have been a shit show. So I'm holding her and it just dawns on me. I have all the control here. I'm in charge. And what I give to them is what they give back to me. So that was a huge change in my mothering game. It changed it forever. And progressively over the years, I've gotten more conscious and more aware. And my girls have come along for the ride, and they're just the most incredible human beings. I mean, they're fabulous. They're fabulous. And so I have focused on their strengths and what I love about them. And I've, cheered them on, even if they do things that I don't like. My oldest daughter, she lived in California for 2 years and then told me she wanted to leave. And that was heartbreaking. I can't even tell you. I had to get up from the table and I didn't say a word. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't speak. And my only stipulation was that she worked with my energy healer for a year to make sure that she really wanted to make that decision. And she did. And she moved back. And I don't like it. I really don't. I still don't like it. I'll be totally honest with you. I don't like living without her. I love her so much. We talk almost every day. And she's my buddy. Like we did everything with her and her husband. We adore them. And, I still have hopes that we're going to live near each other someday because we love each other so much. And the quality time that we get to spend when they come is fantastic. And it's created a larger capacity for joy for me instead of seeing her every weekend. So you got to look at those things. So they're not always going to choose what you want, and they're not supposed to. Okay. They're supposed to have their own agendas. They're supposed to have their own preferences, and they're supposed to create their own life journey. So God bless them. All right. I love you guys. If you need me, if you have questions, you can reach me on Facebook or livelifegolden@gmail.com. Peace.